Jai Hind. I'm Cadet Cheryl Delmavas, representing Karnataka Goa Directorate, 6 Karnataka Air Squadron NCC Mangaluru, NCC Air Wing Flight A. In this session, we will discuss about the topic meteorology. So first, let us know what are we studying. So we are studying meteorology. So what does this meteorology mean? It is the study of atmosphere and the weather processes that occur in the atmosphere. Basically, we are studying about atmosphere and weather conditions. So moving on to why is meteorology important for aviators? As we all know, air is the medium for an aircraft to fly. That is obvious. So as an aviator, it is necessary to have enough knowledge about it. So now let us know how does meteorology help us. Meteorological forecast and observation helps us to plan a safe flight. It gives information about thunderstorm, snowstorm, heavy rains, etc. So right now we have all the weather forecast in our hands. So definitely we can plan a safe flight, right? Met organizations. So there are two, that is International Met Department and International Civil Aviation Organization. So weather is a global in nature and atmospheric changes occur on scales ranging from few centimeters to thousands of kilometers. So it is necessary to observe the behavior of the atmosphere. So weather is something which changes every time and from place to place. So international systems are made so that we can clearly understand these weather conditions. Moving on to Met briefing. So now what is this Met briefing? What does this mean? This is a process in which aircrew is explained about the meteorological conditions. What is done in Met briefing? So this aircrew is provided with the information on latest weather charts. Moreover, they are provided information about the present weather conditions at the base as well as in the airfields. Adding to it, they are also provided with the weather conditions of next 6 to 10 hours. So this aircrew is completely aware of the weather conditions for next 10 hours on base as well as in the airfields. Take a note of this. It is meteorology is very important for aviation. So when we make a sentence, it's necessary to know why is that so. Right. So why is meteorology very important for aviation? Because of meteorology, we can predict the weather and select appropriate airfields and runways. Moreover, it helps the engineers to design a suitable aircraft. The aircrew or maybe the engineers can accurately plan as well as execute a very safe flight. Let us now know about weather and climate. We all know that meteorology helps us in providing information about weather. So now what is this weather? Physical state of atmosphere at a given place and time is called as weather. So now what is this climate? Long term of weather is called as climate. We all know that our aircraft fly in air, in other words, atmosphere. So now we will know in brief about atmosphere. So what is atmosphere? We breathe and are surrounded by air, and the different layers of air surrounding the entire earth is called atmosphere. In this session, we will learn about the composition of air, layers of atmosphere, atmospheric pressure. Composition of air. Air is made up of different gases, or air is a mixture of gases. Mainly nitrogen by 78%, oxygen by 20.95%, argon by 0.93%, and carbon dioxide by 0.03%. It is an interesting fact that atmosphere is never dry. Water vapors are always present in atmosphere in different amounts. The amount and state of water is very important factor when it comes to weather processes. Sometimes this water vapor causes reduction in visibility. Not only water vapor but also dust, smoke causes reduction in visibility. Layers of atmosphere. Please note on this point, as height increases, pressure and density decreases. So let us know the names of the layers of atmosphere. First comes troposphere, next stratosphere, mesosphere, and the last thermosphere. So moving on to troposphere. It is the nearest region to the earth and is generally the region of weather. Upper boundary of troposphere is called tropopause and varies from equator to the poles. Highest at the equator and lowest over the poles. Stratosphere layer begins from tropopause and is about 50 km above it. The temperature in this region is steady or increase with height. Moving on to mesosphere. Again, temperature decreases with height. The lowest temperature in this atmosphere are found to be minus 90 degrees Celsius. Last but not the least, thermosphere. Its upper limit is undefined. Moreover, gravitational pull of the earth is practically absent. In this layer, particles can escape from the atmosphere into the space very easily. The region often is referred as exosphere. The external of thermosphere is called as exosphere. Moving on to ionosphere. The lower thermosphere is in a highly ionized state and hence this layer is called as ionosphere. This layer causes the reflection of radio waves and the long wave radio communication is possible due to this layer. Moving on to atmospheric pressure. We all know that air has certain weight and therefore exerts a certain amount of pressure, which is equal to a column of air extending vertically. Any element on earth which has mass exerts pressure on earth, and so does air. So atmospheric pressure is equal to the vertical column of the earth from the land to the very end of the atmosphere. The pressure is expressed in various units like millibars, pounds per square inch, in short psi, or mm of Hg. Hg is mercury. Clouds. The study of cloud is one of the fascinating aspects of weather science and is also a very important tool of weather forecasting. What are clouds? The clouds may be defined as visible aggregate of minute particles of water or ice or both in free air. Let us now know how are these clouds formed. So clouds are formed by cooling of masses of damp air or moist air generated by upward motion, and it is also accompanied by expansion with fall of pressure. Basically, when there is moist around and there is upward motion of wind and there is fall in pressure, during this phenomena clouds are formed. Moving on to classification of clouds. Many of the times these clouds are observed and are classified on the basis of their appearance and the basis of their formation. Look at the table carefully. Family, average height of base, forms. High, 2000 feet and above. Cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus. Medium, those are from 6,500 feet to 20,000 feet. Those are altostratus, altocumulus and nimbostratus. Low, ground level to 6,500 feet. Stratus and stratocumulus. Vertical development of clouds are usually seen. Those have the base at 1500 feet and go up to 6500 feet. So those forms are cumulus, cumulonimbus. This table has to be biated. Through this picture, it is easy to understand the low clouds, mid clouds and high clouds. Moving on to high clouds. First, cirrus. In short, for remembering, we can use CI. These are detached clouds, form of white, delicate filaments, and are fibrous in appearance. Next comes cirrocumulus. These are thin white patches, sheet or layer of cloud. They compose of very small elements in form of grains, ripples, etc. Merged or are separated. More or less, they are regularly arranged. Next comes cirrostratus. They are transparent, whitish cloud with a veil of fibrous or smooth appearance. Sometimes cover the complete sky or sometimes partly. Up next, medium clouds. Altocumulus. They appear in white, grey or both in color, in patch or in sheet or sometimes layer of cloud, generally with shading. Moving on to altostratus. They are greyish or sometimes bluish, sheet or layer type of appearance. They sometimes totally or sometimes partly cover the sky. Next, low clouds. Nimbostratus. They are grey colored and often very dark. They appear or associate with continuous falling of snow or rain. These are thick clouds. Next, stratocumulus. In short, SC. They are grey and sometimes whitish. They are in form of patches, sheets or layers of cloud. Last, stratus, ST. These are generally grey, fairly uniform base and give drizzles or snow grains. Clouds with vertical development. First, cumulus. These are detached clouds. The bulging upper part of these clouds resemble like a cauliflower. The sunlit part of these clouds are brilliantly white. The bases are relatively dark and horizontal. It is very clearly seen in the picture. Moving on to cumulus nimbus. In short, CN. These are heavy and dense clouds, extend in form of a mountain or huge towers. We have studied about the clouds. Clouds are formed with the process of evaporation. So after evaporation comes condensation, which is not there, and then comes precipitation. So now there are various types of precipitation. So first is drizzle. These are minute water droplets falling from the clouds. Moving on to rain. Medium-sized water droplets falling from layer types of clouds. Next is snow. It's the frozen rain in the form of flakes or ice crystals. Sleet. It's a mixture of rain as well as snow. Next is shower. Shower are large drops falling from heap type of clouds. Next is thunderstorm, in which thunder is also heard, lightning is seen, and it is accompanied by sharp shower. Hailstorm, a storm in which solids of ice fall on the ground. Let us now know the flying hazards in thunderstorm. Drafts. Within the cloud, strong updrafts and downdrafts may cause sudden and large variation in the altitude of an aircraft. These can harm the aircraft and altitude might be varying. Next is gusts. In this, extreme bumpiness within the cloud is caused, which can cause reduction in visibility. Hail. CB clouds have supercooled water drops which can cause icing up to great heights. Next is lightning. Lightning strike temporarily blindness and affects radio and navigation aids. Visibility. By the way, why is this very much important? Many people tell if you want to be a good pilot, you should have keen visibility, you should have keen eyes, all that stuff. Why is that so? Because it is necessary for an aviator to know how far he'll be able to see various things like landmarks, targets, or other aircrafts or runways, just in case any glitch occurs. What is visibility? It is the degree of transparency of the atmosphere. Basically, it is the measure of how far a person with normal vision can see objects and recognize it. Okay? Next, limitation of MET report. In our previous classes, we have already learned about MET briefing, MET report, right? So now let us know its limitations. The report gives horizontal visibility at the ground level, whereas it is different from vertical and slant visibility. The report gives the lowest visibility after scanning in all the directions, but visibility changes with the directions. Estimate of visibility depends on the landmark selected for observation. So the visibility also changes from a place to another. Visibility report at night is actually an estimate of equivalent daytime visibility. Let us now know types of visibility. There are 3 types of it. First is horizontal visibility, vertical visibility, it is during the flight, and slant visibility, that is also during the flight. Now let us know the causes of poor visibility. First, dust haze. It is nothing but the dust is widespread and is held in suspension for numbers of days. Next is dust rising winds. It is nothing but during dust haze there are rising winds. When this is caused, the visibility drops for less than 1000 meters and even it is affected vertically. Next is dust storm. Visibility in dust storm is less than 1000 meters and it is actually for small duration. Next is smoke haze. It is due to the smoke emitted from industries or domestic sources. It spread as the haze layer when the wind is calm or very light. Moist haze. This is usually seen in the morning and goes off as the time goes. It is usually seen maybe at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and it goes off as it comes 10 and the sky is very crystal clear. Next is mist. Mist is nothing but thicker version of moist haze. The visibility is just between 1 to 2 kilometers. Next is fog. It is nothing but condensed water vapor and relative humidity is 75% or more. Next comes smog. This is problem of Delhi. Smoke plus fog. So this together is called as smog. Humid and condensation. So far for what we have studied, we know that water vapor is very important constituent of the atmosphere so far as weather is concerned. Now let us study humidity. What is humidity? The term humidity refers to water vapor in air. The amount of water vapor that air can hold depends on its temperature. Everything has certain limits. So does air when it comes to holding water vapor. It is fixed for volume of air and a temperature. Relative humidity of air increases when the temperature decreases and vice versa. Absolute humidity remains more or less steady as long as temperature does not decrease before dew point. Relative humidity can be calculated by actual amount of water vapor divided by amount required to reach saturation. Moving on to condensation. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, these processes we have been learning since our lower classes. So now, what is condensation? The conversion of water vapor into liquid form or ice form is called as condensation. Now let us learn effects of condensation. First is formation of moist haze, mist and fog. This happens when the lower atmosphere is cooled to a temperature below the dew point and these tiny water droplets are held in suspension. Next is precipitation. General term used for drizzle, rain, shower, snow, sleet, etc. Last but not the least, contrails. They form due to moist content in the exhaust gas condensing into visible streak of water or ice. Water vapor. Since the beginning of session, we have been telling you that water vapor is very essential, it is necessary and stuff. So why is that so? It is the water vapor present in atmosphere that is largely responsible for trapping the outgoing long wave radiation from the earth. Water vapor is also responsible for many weather phenomena. It prevents the surface of the earth and the lower layers of the atmosphere from getting chilled